paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderous scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive. They're selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Literal vampire pot belly goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
Horrors in this house. There's some horrors in this house. There's some horrors in this house. There's some horrors in this house. I said certified freak. 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P word. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Give me everything you've got for this wet ass P word. Beat it up, N-word, catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P word right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hop on top, I wanna ride. I do a kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This P word is wet, come take a dive. It continues along these lines. And it gets significantly more vulgar. Like, a lot more vulgar.
leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I'll barbecue your ass flat. I will cook your ass up so fast, and I'll tell them, oh, I killed a cow out back, baby. You think Christ would eat somebody? He would never do that. I will. I'm ready to hang them up, gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. And that's why I want the globalists to know. I will eat your ass first. I swear to God, if it's the last thing I do, I'm gonna get my hands around your throat.
What rolls downstairs, a motor in pairs, rolls over your neighbor's dog? What's great for a snack and fits on your back? It's long, long, long. It's long, long. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's long, long. It's better than bad, it's good. Everyone wants a long. You're gonna love it long. Come on and get your long. Everyone needs a long.
Log from Blammo.
It's another Be Weird broadcast. Let's go! How's it going, Chad? How you doing? Holy cow! That's right, we made it. It's a new time. It's a new time slot, but it's the same old great show. That's right, everybody. We checking out what is weird and wonderful in the world. Here, this is another Be Weird broadcast. It is exactly 7:14 in the morning here in Montreal. It is January 10th. It's a Tuesday. That's right, everybody. Tuesday. I don't know what I'm doing streaming this early, but here we are. How's it going? How you doing? I can see it. I can see the moon outside my window. I'm sure the sun will break at some point. But how you doing? How's it going? We got ourselves all sorts of news to catch up on. I have completely missed the Brazilian January 6th. So we're going to take a closer look at that, see what's going on. I hear that Bolsonaro has a tummy ache. So we're going to look into that, see what's going on. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting stream. And probably a bit shorter, ending when work starts at around 9. But yeah, got myself a new internship. I'm going to be creating courses, developing a new way to evaluate courses. So I'm super excited. It's gonna be an interesting internship, and I'm looking forward to it. But it does mean I can no longer stream the normal slot in 9 to 11 a.m. Nice, chill, easy, relaxed mornings. Now my mornings are like go. But that's cool. I'm gonna be drinking a lot more coffee, I guess, stronger coffee, and we'll be doing some news. I might try to figure out some late night streams to sort of balance it out on the weekends, because I feel like I've been missing the debate circuit. I gotta get in there, get into some blood sports, and yeah, try to see what's going on in the discourse, as it's called. So we going live, new time slot, new everything. It's gonna be good. I was supposed to have new emotes ready, but we ran into a problem. But you know, it is what it is. Soon, eventually, I will have my own original emotes and music. So we blasting off. We going live, and then we're gonna go see what's going on in Brazil. Now, I wish, if I were not on YouTube, I'll at some point play the Brazil song, maybe later at the end of this stream. Because that movie, that song is, gosh, it just always makes my heart swell. Okay, so yeah, we good. We blasting off. How you doing? How's it going, chat? If you on Twitter, go follow me there. Go retweet, all that jazz. Okay. I'm just gonna post on my Facebook. That's all I'm gonna post to Facebook. Can you believe it? So I had a crazy good stream. Sorry, not a stream, but I had a really good stream. Not stream, but slam, poetry slam, the last Saturday. I cannot wait to get footage out. Holy shit, man, it was so good. We probably had like 60 people in the audience. 60, 70, and packed. I couldn't find chairs for the life of me. Show went to like midnight. Real barn burner. People were into it. It was awesome. We gave out $300 to the winner, and there's talks to fly me out to Vancouver. I think I'm gonna fly to Vancouver, and yeah, maybe start a cipher. Start a regular cipher. It would be really good for the community to have some way for poets to just, I don't know, ciphers can go so many different ways. You know, the competition will be there, and that'll be really high stakes. So I'm thinking of creating something a bit more chill. But it's a really interesting opportunity, and I would love to create some sort of regular cipher in Vancouver. You know, to go do some IRL streaming, you know, and shit, and then like, you know, it's hush hush, only poets only, you know, secret access to come see the cipher. Maybe by year 3, when it's really hot, we'll bring in cameras, but all right. Let's get to the main segments. But yeah, needless to say, I'm feeling great. I had an incredible weekend. We absolutely crushed it. It was honestly really great to see. It's been probably years that the Poetry Slam has been in a bad way. for lots of reasons, especially pandemic. And this is like probably the first show where it's grown past. It's gotten bigger than what it used to be like before the festival. We had the Nationals here in Montreal, and that was probably Poetry Slam at its peak in the city. So I'm hoping to get it back up there. And yeah, I don't know if we'll do another festival, but certainly want to like get some exciting stuff happening with poetry, great shows, all that stuff. There was a fun idea for a show. Maybe I'll produce it in the summer, but you take some poems, you put them up on a wall, you know, maybe a single stanza, maybe a couplet, a rhyming couplet, whatever, or maybe just a really gut punch. And then you take out some of the words, and then people who pass by, you ask them to fill in the sentence. And you record it, you talk about it, yada yada yada. It's a show. You have maybe 2 hosts, do it outside, not like just for laughs, but similar. Or maybe just like live stream, 1 person at a table, and then you have like the thing up in front. Yeah, I can already see this now. Do it like change my mind, but change my poem. So that's an idea for. Oh hey, yeah, how's it going? You don't have to be sorry, man. Hey man, I wouldn't be doing this if I could not talk to a room of 0 and be okay with it. And you should always call your mom. Always call your mom. I'm just getting excited about poetry shows I'm gonna do in the future in the summer, and maybe jetting out to Vancouver to start a cipher. So that's really exciting stuff. The Poetry Slam was like such a rager. So I'm looking forward to it. And I might be going out to Ganawage to go teach Poetry Slam to some youngins, which would be really cool. Bring slam to the UK. Now UK has an incredible rap scene. And I know I've listened to a lot of British rap that is like popping off, that is incredible. So I would imagine there's a battle rap scene, and yeah, I would start to dig in those circles. Battle rap and poetry slam can sometimes sit side by side. I mean, yeah, sure. I might not use it, but you can always suggest it. But yeah, no. What's up? Give me a suggestion for my stream. Always looking to get better. So we blasting off. We're about to get into the first segment. I have to be really careful with music, because I'm streaming on YouTube. Otherwise this stream would be popping with crazy good music. I'd be DJing all the time. It's actually one of the things I'm considering is that I might stick to a morning slot, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. but Twitch only. Really improve the production quality, really improve the music, especially, and then start cutting it up for YouTube commentary, shorter clips, because the YouTube's kind of whatever right now. It's like 100 subscribers, a few people come through, but really it's only successful when like something pops off, goes viral, like the Freedom Convoy. Yeah, shoot me I'm always open to new music. Yeah, shoot me a DM, and we'll take a closer look. I'm always looking for good music. I just made a playlist for the Throw Poetry Slam that had some bangers, some old bangers. I forgot about Maggot Brain, the album by Funkadelic. I forgot about this album. Oh god, this album's so good. But all right, let's get into the main segment. I've rambled on long enough. Fan service for all of one of you. All right, let's do this. So yeah, our first story is gonna be covering the whole Brazil failed coup d'etat. I am fascinated by this. I'm disappointed I didn't get to watch it a bit more live. But here we are. Is what it is. And we're gonna go see what's going on. I got a lot of live clips lined up. So we're gonna see sort of what happened a few days ago, and then catch up after that. I see what you saw in CC. Elaborate. Go on. Do explain yourself. That's such a loaded sentence. I feel like you just put a loaded gun on the table. Do I pick it up? We had a discussion. Dude freaked out. I was calm, not rude. He was very condescending and rude. I had receipts. Dude kicked me from Discord, plus left mine. And then dude went on a schizo rant about me on Twitter for a couple of hours. It was wild, man. Fun as fuck for me if I didn't really care about the situation. Yeah. Impulse control. Impulse control. It was just a joke, everybody. No, was it? Nobody was controlling that shit, buddy boy. Yeah, I mean, my experience was very much along those lines, particularly the receipt part, being like, you said this, and now you say this. You know, like, I'm just repeating back to you what you said, you know, I'm like, rah, 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 rah. Always says it's virtuous to change your opinion when proven wrong, but when I came with receipts, dude did that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, I mean, this is the internet. You know, you can't expect people to be totally, you know, forthcoming and ready to, I mean, if anything, is the exception to the rule. Yeah, I don't know. The part that really made me laugh, when I went through it, I'm just like, my brain. But I had the best laugh when I found out that CC and Leonard had a discussion about our debate. It was like licking his wounds with kind company. And motherfucker admits, he just straight up admits to being like, yeah, that was a bit of a stretch. That was a bit of a long shot, but I thought he might bite it. And in the conversation, I'm like ripping my hair out. Like, why would you say this thing? It's insane. You're crazy. You know, like, how are you trying? Do you want me to take you seriously? And then later finding out, he's like, yeah, I wasn't serious about that point at all. I was like, people want to take you at your word, and you have to be super careful about that, because as soon as you start straying from that like noble attribution, that good faith, it's really hard to get it back on the road. Yeah. I feel the space is toxic for sure, but I don't know. I feel like people can still be exceptions that try to be. It was very hard to follow. The one between me and CC. Yeah, it was very, very circuitous all over the place. I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, I want to understand you, but you know, like, I am gonna tell you back what you said to me. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, maybe there's a moment of self-reflection, and he starts to see the pattern that he's producing for himself. I think a lot of times, like, it's like, I play a lot of StarCraft, or I do a lot of poetry or whatever, and if you don't record yourself and then sit and watch yourself, you know, like, have that observer on, either observer on in the moment, which is very meditative and hard to do all the time, or you record it and watch it like a normal person and be like, why'd I do that? That's a weird thing to do. Why? I did that again. And yeah, I hope that happens for all of us. But let's get to the news. I don't really care. CC and I don't talk anymore. Like, we just don't talk anymore. This is sad to me, because like, he wanted to do the debate thing, the whole discussion. I love that shit. Talking realistic, I was talking idealistic. Yeah, exactly. Should have been more observant in the conversation that he wasn't following. Yeah, I run into that problem when people think I'm being prescriptive instead of descriptive, being like, I'm just trying to describe the world as it is, and you think that's how I want it to be. I'm just like, no. Debates are hard, because I feel like debates are more about emotion regulation than anything else. Being able to come across hot, exciting, like you're saying something special, and usually that comes from a place of feeling and hurt, and controlling those emotions, and, you know, guiding the emotions through speeches, the feel through the words. And I don't know if a lot of dudes, just regular dudes, have that type of emotional regulation in the moment as they're formulating ideas, engaging with someone who believes something very different from them. I think it's just a hard thing to practice and develop. Yeah, exactly. And if you go into something thinking I am correct, like, you're already probably off to a bad start. If I've learned anything in this life, it's how often I'm wrong just constantly, if anything, doesn't matter how good you are at making something, like errors creep in, like it's a constant affair. I feel like the debate space could be improved so much if people just took 2 to 3 seconds before responding. Well, I know that, excuse me, Dylan Burns has stopped. Heem is gone. And so like a really cozy, friendly debate space doesn't exactly exist. We have Wick TV now, but he's doing, he looks like he's going the way of blood sports, large panels. So, I mean, I could probably think of doing a weekend, you know, maybe like a weekend cozy debate stream. I did it once called Hot Topics Cool Heads, and that was good. I moderated. It was like 2v2. It was awesome. Everybody stopped to listen. There's lots of disagreement, but there's always like people engaging. There's so much engagement. I remember like it was overwhelming amounts of good faith. It was awesome. It was crazy. Prime? Who Prime? Yeah, I guess the part I would have to figure out like how to get audience in. I really enjoy like audience input, like segment 1 discussion, segment 2 audience input, break or whatever. Prime K's? Capitalism? Capitalism. All right, let's focus on Brazil. I really want to see what's going on. I feel like I'm really behind on the news. It's been like 2 days and the country almost collapsed. So I want to take a look into that. And then at the back half, at the back section, we'll pick this discussion back up again. Cause I don't know what's happening. What's going on in the world anymore, everybody? What's the deal? Is Lula not the duly elected representative of the state? All right, let's get into it. Little Trump in Brazil. It's really funny. Okay, then. So let's take a look at the actual live footage.
Brazil, as thousands stormed the country's capital protesting October's election results. Supporters of far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro unwilling to accept his defeat to Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, otherwise known as Lula, seen here tonight in an emergency address, promising harsh consequences as Bolsonaro's election deniers smashed windows.
Bro.
Inside and out of
Whoa.
Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of this.
Tweeting in part, quote, using violence to attack democratic institutions is always unacceptable.
Oh yeah.
Seem all too familiar.
Ah!
Only this time,
No, you will suffer in silence and you will enjoy it.
Brazilian lawmakers largely weren't inside, and Brazil's new government is
Thank you,
already
Bailey.
in power, with Lula's inauguration just 1 week ago.
That's what I don't
But
understand.
fears of an insurrection never fully quelled. In the days that followed Lula's win, Bolsonaro protesters blocked major roads. They set vehicles on fire, while Bolsonaro towed the line, never formally conceding to Lula.
Wow, he never did.
This was coming.
I would say these events were tragic but unsurprising, unfortunately. And there's been a consistent climate of denial among the supporters of the defeated presidents.
Bringing calm to a country at a political boiling point will be Lula's first major test of his new presidency. Marissa Parra, NBC News.
Okay. Couple new pieces of information there. I wish patriotism wasn't such a cringe right-leaning thing. Patriotism is pretty based, but why the fuck are these people the ones who harnessed it? You'll find writers who have tried to parse the difference between nationalism and patriotism. So like these people, you know, might not be patriotic, but might be nationalists because they have this vision of what the nation is and they accept no other. But a patriot might be someone who believes in the institutions that your state creates, i.e. democracy, judicial review, voting, yada, 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 elections, and be patriotic about that, in which case patriotism's good and based, and you do you. I'm slightly patriotic as a Canadian. I recognize that Canada does really well in the world, you know, comparisons to, you know, I mean, like, come on, we're the descendants of a colonial empire, so of course we're eating good. Yeah, exactly. I cannot believe we're watching this shit again. Or not watching it. Come on, computer.
Infiltrada. Esse ex-presidente,
Bro.
isso é idiota, covarde.
I'm sorry. I got a serious problem with my computer. This is the worst it's been. I've been watching Donkey for like pretty much 10 years now. Like a decade. He's starting his own gaming company and everything. It's wild. Whoa!
Baderno.
How did they miss? Unruly, infiltrated people.
Esse
Nice.
ex-presidente.
That former president is an
idiota.
idiota.
Tanto que ele saiu.
A coward.
2 dias antes
He fled.
de passar faixa, foi para os Estados Unidos.
Oh, really? Wow.
Mas
Yeah.
é assim mesmo, mas é uma baderna.
I'm currently trying to figure out how to get Wii U games on my Steam Deck, like emulators and stuff. Well, we know that they arrested more people on the day of. Terrorismo. Let's go. Call it what it is. An emulator within an emulator? No, Steam Deck just has like a Linux branch, essentially. They made a Steam operating system. And then on there, it basically works like Linux. And so you can go grab this program called EmuDeck. And EmuDeck just basically does all the work of fetching and installing and configuring the emulators. And then you have to go get your ROMs and BIOS.
Tem direito de se manifestar, mas não de quebrar as coisas dos outros. Isso eu achei errado.
Based.
Isso eu não concordo. Que a gente acha que tem
You
muita
can
coisa
install
errada,
Windows
tem
on
muita
Steam
coisa
Deck.
errada, mas não precisa
It's a
quebrar.
computer.
Eu não posso ir na sua casa e quebrar sua casa
Crazy.
porque eu não gosto de você.
Eu repudio qualquer atividade antidemocrática,
Reject any kind of
porque nós temos um
anti-democratic
presidente eleito democraticamente nas urnas.
Let's
E
go.
isso que aconteceu foi
I wonder if they smeared shit on the walls too.
um ato,
They're just chilling.
cara,
What is this bullshit?
ato de puro vandalismo.
Swinging your flag like it's gonna protect you from consequences. It was unnecessary, right? Because everyone has the right to defend their positions. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brazil is really interesting. If you ever get the chance, watch the movie Brazil, which is chef's kiss, one of the best movies made, just bar none. It's just an incredible film. And it really sort of tackles the state as a Kafka-esque bureaucracy where all this oppression is hidden behind this veneer of very authoritative, not authoritarian, but authoritative, like pencil pushing and paper shuffling. And so all this like really hardcore police state action is made to look okay. It's a fantastic film. And really gets at the heart of like what a lot of South American, 1985. There's a lot of characters in there. You'd be like, he's in this movie. Robert De Niro's in it and plays an incredible role. One of the Monty Python guys is in it too. Fucking great film. I've seen it like 3 times now. And a lot of South American writers, if you ever get the chance, 100 Years of Solitude is like where magic realism comes from. This idea that there's like 2 realities happening before your eyes. There's the world we live in and then this magical world above. And one of the best reads, I've read it several times, and that's what I think about when I think about South America, this sort of like recognition of these 2 worlds. And so to answer your question in a very long-winded way, there's like disinformation, there's misinformation, there's an entire like alternate set of realities that people foster because there's often this dissonance between the people's knowledge and what the state represents, particularly with like the history that, with the CIA all up in their shit. So it's a really complicated question, but you can usually expect most countries to have some problem with disinformation, misinformation now. It's actually going to be, I would ask you, is there an exception to that rule? Like, is there a country that doesn't have this really tough problem with misinformation, that doesn't delve into like deep history or politics? It's just kind of like a phenomenon now.
E agora por que ele não pode respeitar? Precisa quebrar nada, né?
Só se pôr no seu lugar, aceitar.
That's what yeah, you gotta vote.
Mais 4 anos pra ver o que pode fazer.
These people have given up on voting. It's bad.
Indignado com esse
Can't have misinformation if there's no information to begin with. Yeah, there's like that line which is first they came for the journalists and then I don't know what happened.
Caso com algo que a gente acha que não foi real, o que aconteceu nas urnas.
They're outraged what happened at the ballot box. They think the Supreme Court has handed something. Yeah?
Então
Yeah.
a gente acredita que fomos
We were robbed at the
roubados
ballot
nas
boxes.
urnas.
Just
Por isso
unhinged
tá havendo essas
conspiracies.
manifestações. E eu acho absurdo
You think it's
presidente
absurd?
ladrão
A thief president
que
who
roubou
stole?
o país, entendeu?
To return to the crime scene.
Voltar, né,
Man,
à
this
cena do
is
crime
bad.
pra
This is
ser
bad.
reeleito.
War of the Worlds is my favorite read. Yeah, I've definitely read it. Oh yeah, no, incredible book. Yeah, incredible book.
E tá aí, né, sendo presidente.
Funny thing about that book, when I was reading it, I was probably like 12 or 13 years old and got into a car accident, and so I only got to read about 3/4 of the book because it got totally trashed and I think I had to like go back years later to like finish it off, and I was so confused how it was gonna end. Like, how are they gonna defeat this crazy alien race?
É absurdo, é uma vergonha pro país.
E sobre as manifestações, eu acho que elas são desnecessárias, são
An attack against democracy.
a democracia,
An attack against the Brazilian
atentado
population. Wow, that's a
contra
lot of people.
população brasileira, e de forma alguma isso é uma
Greatest
forma
edging.
de
Yeah.
liberdade de
Yeah, for
expressão.
sure.
Isso é
Just like
atentado e
all wraps
terrorismo
up in a few
contra o
sentences.
país. É o atentado da própria população contra o país.
Faz o certo, faz o bem. Para de ser mariquita.
Stop being puppets, everybody.
Por favor.
The part I always find fascinating about this shit is that they're always saying the thing to other people that they're breaking. Do what's right. Well, you're doing what's wrong right now. You're not like voting. You're trying to upend democracy. Do good. You're breaking people's shit. That is bad. Stop being puppets. You're being a fucking puppet, please. All right. You go do your stuff.
Para de ser mariquita assim, ó.
Ah, incredible. Dudes on horses ordering this crazy lady around who like cannot believe her favorite guy did not get voted in. Ugh. All right, next up we've got CBC, The National. The National always has pretty like solid reporting. I always enjoy watching The National.
Thousands loyal to the defeated president, Jair Bolsonaro, swarmed Congress, roamed the presidential palace, and broke into the Supreme Court. Shouting freedom, waving flags, demanding a military takeover, while posing for pictures in the heart of Brazil's government, the Three Powers Plaza, and seemingly met little resistance. Overwhelming security, even some military police cooperation, according to local news reporting.
Whoa.
It took hours for security to mount a defense, firing tear gas. On a Sunday, the government buildings were largely deserted. It could have been much worse. At least 170 have now been arrested, and
Whoa.
President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, sworn in just a week ago, called the rioters fanatical fascists.
Yeah, I like that immediately calling them what they are.
He criticized
Fascista
police,
fanat.
fired the head of Capitol Security, and vowed the vandals would be found and punished. Blamed Bolsonaro for sowing the seeds of doubt that
Absolutely.
the fiercely contested election in October was valid. His supporters refuse to accept his loss and are inspired by the January 6th type tactics in Washington, says this political
Wow.
scientist.
The chief export of America is terrorism.
It's Trumpism all over again. I mean, the pro
no. So I guess the modern problem with fascism isn't so much that it might emerge and like metastasize within a country. It's that it's viral, is that it moves around, and that even if you stamp it out in one country, it's almost certain to pop up somewhere else. Like, I think Robert Evans described fascism like herpes, in that almost every country has it and it flares up from time to time. You just got to treat it when it does, but you're not going to ever get rid of it.
Bolsonaro movement in Brazil has emulated, has mimicked pretty much every single step Trump supporters have taken in the United States.
Oh, that's right. I heard there's a Brazilian QAnon shaman.
President Biden, traveling to Mexico City, called the attacks outrageous and said the U.S. continues to support Brazil's democracy. Bolsonaro left Brazil for Florida last week, reportedly to avoid criminal investigations.
Oh, it's not.
Tonight, he said he repudiates
Apparently it's from 2021. It's a lie.
Lula's accusations. But the vandalism and invasion Sunday go beyond acceptable protest. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Toronto.
Get him. Get him. I love how like hundreds of people got arrested immediately. In America, I think the count is almost at 1,000 people who have been charged with crimes in the wake of January 6th, which is based. Good. It's good news, everybody. All right, next up. My computer is so unhappy. All right, we got a longer segment from CBC News, just comparing January 6th and what I guess would be January 8th. Is that like our 2 days that we're going with?
We want to turn our attention to that breaking news story that's moving in Brazil. A protest with similarities to the January 6th insurrection in Washington is currently underway in South America. Now have a look at this first video from Brazil's Record News. Supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro,
Also, thanks for retweeting, Barely. Appreciate you.
who rejected his electoral defeat back in October, those supporters have now stormed the National Congress building, as well as several ministry buildings and possibly the presidential palace. But officials say Bolsonaro's successor, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, isn't even there. Lula was sworn in just a week ago.
Wild.
For more on this story, we're joined now by Guilherme
Absolutely wild.
Casarroyos. He is a political scientist and a professor in Brazil, and he's joining us from Sao Paulo. Guilherme, thank you so much for joining us.
Coffee.
Thank you for having me.
Guilherme,
This is a
I'll
longer
just
segment
say
with
it
this
straight.
guy.
What the heck is going on in Brasilia?
Nice.
Well, it's
Good question, journalist. What the heck is going on?
It's Trumpism all over again. I mean, the pro-Bolsonaro movement in Brazil has emulated, has mimicked pretty much every single step Trump supporters have taken in the United States. So it comes
Nice.
as no surprise, unfortunately. Pro-Bolsonaro supporters have
I'm really curious if Steve Bannon and what's his name, Roger Stone are all caught up in this.
been camping in front of military headquarters for a couple of months now. They have been acting violently, blocking roads ever since Bolsonaro lost the elections on October
Damn.
30th.
That's right.
So basically what we see is the natural development of something that we have been seeing for at least 2 months or 4 years, if you think about the whole Bolsonaro tenure. So it shocks, of course, because we never expected people to disregard institutions like that. But at the same time, it's like watching a rerun of a movie that we already know the ending. So I hope that the Brazilian authorities just take a firm stand on whatever is happening in Brazil.
You know, Guilherme, I really appreciate, because of course we've been comparing it to the storming of the Capitol, U.S. Capitol 2 years ago. You've compared it to Trumpism. But this is a uniquely Brazilian situation that we are seeing unfold. Explain to us the dynamics here. Why are the supporters of Bolsonaro not accepting the election results? What's their gripe?
Well, the main argument is elections have been rigged, have been fraudulent, just like even...
Stop the count! It's rigged, brother!
The wording is identical to the one that we see in the United States. So that's for researchers like me, that's what really stands out. How Brazilian supporters of former President Bolsonaro emulate pretty much every single element, every single conspiracy theory, every single jargon and call to arms from the Trumpist movement in the United States. What's
Enter the link.
Brazilian about it is that we have a very recent past of military dictatorship. So one of the arguments, of course, other than elections were fraudulent and Bolsonaro should remain as Brazil's president, is that most of these supporters have been calling upon the military takeover of the Brazilian government.
Stop the steal!
Kind of bringing us back to the 1960s.
We're going to the Capitol, brother!
60s when we had this military dictatorship that lasted for 21 years. So it's a combination of far-right tactics and imagery of Trumpism with a military.
They were really excited when the military showed up. They're like, our people.
Military past that people somehow have to or want to bring back.
Now, Guilherme, give us a sense. We are seeing destruction of property. We are seeing people break into places they're not supposed to be. Are we seeing violence? Are we seeing threats of aggression? Is anyone being threatened in this moment?
Well, to be fair, I've watched one video clip of a policeman being beaten up in Brasilia. We don't know exactly the extent of violence. What we do know is that Brazil has historically been a country where where civilians didn't have gun access. And one of the great transformations of the Bolsonaro administration is that he allowed Brazilians to have their own guns, pretty much along the lines of the United States Second Amendment rights, which has caused an increase of 300,000 weapons in the hands of Brazilian civilians to more than 1 million weapons in less than 4 years. So we can imagine that if there's no violence right now, there could be violence in the future thanks to...
I guess the problem, though, is that like a modern military is way more capabilities than just men with guns. Like the communication, having drones, stuff like that. Like, but you never want to see a people against the nation's military. It's like the worst case scenario.
Many more Brazilians right now having access to all kinds of weapons.
Have you ever witnessed anything like this in Brazil before?
No. We have had protests, very intense and very packed protests since 2013, as much as pretty much everywhere else in the world. I mean, we've seen the echoes of the Arab Spring and everything also taking place in Brazil, but not with this kind of institutional violence that we see right now. We see people really willing to storm into and take over the Supreme Court of Brazil. Back in the day, 2013, 2014, protests were predominantly peaceful. With no invasion, no storming of institutions inside. What we see today is a consequence of Brazil's, as I said, military past, but also this echo of Trumpism being revived in Brazil.
There's something interesting about that in that I was reading up on, I guess, like coups, and came across this thing that was like coup d'etats like happen more often in countries where they've happened before, but I've never thought it would be like more coup d'etats will happen in Brazil if they happen in America. You know, like I never thought that would happen. We always had these protests, but usually what broke everything was the other side. What's the other side in this case? Visual paleta, like leftists, for being patriots, now appeared in the media. Also, welcome to the stream.
The complication here also, as you've referenced, is
the problem with like these people can't be called patriots because the election happened and Lula was inaugurated. So their opportunity to say this is rigged or we're going to the courts to say something was wrong with the ballots, we're well past that. So the only way to interpret this is unpatriotic behavior, saying your vote doesn't matter anymore, which is basically akin to saying you're not a citizen. Like that's extremely dangerous for any country. Yeah.
Relationship between Bolsonaro and the military, and how justice sometimes plays out in Brazil. We've seen how brutal some of the security forces can be, particularly in favelas, clearing them out.
Right.
I wonder how, like, who's getting involved right now to clear out those protesters that have stormed Congress? Is it the local police? Is it the
Socialists have always invaded the capital in the past and never reported it to the world. Can you give me an example we can look up?
military? And will they bring a degree of violence to this?
Yeah, surprisingly, that's another very Brazilian image. Some police officers were taking selfies with the protesters who were trying to invade the Congress
get your
building
selfie at the
and
Capitol.
the Supreme Court building. So I think that the policemen, and this is something that we've been saying for a long time now, the police forces, security forces, and some shares of the army have been backing Bolsonaro. So Bolsonaro lost the elections in October. He fled the country a few days before Lula's inauguration. He never really conceded. So this is something that has kept so many Brazilians in the streets, because Bolsonaro has never really told them, look, I lost the elections and I'm leaving. So police and security officers, they have been supportive, if not, they've been supportive in general. They've been negligent towards pretty much everything that has happened over the last couple of months. So this is...
It did sound, though, like once this popped off, the Supreme Court came down pretty heavy-handed, and the police have fallen in line, more or less.
Quite concerning, because what people are asking, what some senators and some Congress people are asking right now is for a federal military intervention in Brasilia to stop the rioters. And this is something that we've seen in Rio a couple of years ago, in some places, but as very specific measures to curb extreme violence, but to contain protesters like that, that's really a novelty.
Guilherme, has Bolsonaro said anything since today's events happened?
Good question.
Not really. We don't know exactly where he is. People say that he's still in Florida. Some people claim that he's flying to Italy anytime soon. So we haven't heard from Bolsonaro, not even in social media. Actually, who posts on Bolsonaro's behalf on social media is his second son. And he keeps posting on Twitter as though he was still the president. So that's kind of weird dystopic situation that we see in Brazil. And Bolsonaro hasn't really said anything about the Congress and Supreme Court stormings that took place like couple of hours ago.
What visa is he using? How is he in America? Is he on a diplomatic visa? Like, what's up?
Okay, so to the best of your knowledge, how is this thing going to play out? Like, are people just going to quietly go home? Are we about to see more taking over of the Capitol?
Well, it depends on how fast the federal government summons the federal forces to intervene. If it happens today, they might be able to contain the protesters. If it takes a long time for them to act, that might cause a lot of destruction, a lot of private property and public property destruction, but also a lot of violence in the streets.
Okay, so the cleanup.
Brazilian policymakers are cleaning up their own offices today after thousands of protesters stormed several government buildings. Supporters of ex-President Jair Bolsonaro broke into Congress, the Supreme Court, and the presidential palace, and then trashed the nation's highest seats of power.
Holy cow.
Protesters were seeking military intervention to either restore the far-right Bolsonaro to power or oust the newly inaugurated leftist Lula da Silva. These scenes of chaos and destruction eerily similar to those Capitol riots in Washington, D.C.
Oh, have you seen the countless times that the socialists invaded the Congress in the past? No visual paletta. Would you care to inform me on any one of those countless times that socialists have invaded the Congress? I'll take any example you have, and we'll take a closer look.
Just over 2 years ago.
I'm definitely well aware of, like, American foreign intervention, particularly with, like, Chile.
But first we start...
But, like, I'm not sure what you're referring to as it pertains to Brazil, so I'll be happy to be educated. All right.
With the developing news this morning out of Brazil, where yesterday thousands of support.
Let's skip on Morning Joe.
Steve Bannon is one of Trump's allies. Obviously, he was a chief strategist who worked in the White House. He has publicly acknowledged that he advised Bolsonaro. This is Bannon back in November as he was pushing the misinformation surrounding this election.
Look in the streets of Brazil. Look at the great patriots in Brazil that at a lot of danger to themselves have come forward and are in the streets of Brazil. This is the people saying, no, you didn't follow the Constitution.
Sorry, just a gut check here. How many people, if I were to say to you, the average person understands constitutional law, would you agree? This link has the innumerable invades. I've disabled links on YouTube because spam bots. Let's see if there's another way I can pull up that link. Can you describe something for me to Google?
You use these machines, use the judiciary to shut us down in the media, and we're not going to tolerate it. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
And we're seeing how it's playing out now. John Avalon is here to discuss. It is remarkable to see. It wasn't just Steve Bannon who's been advising him. It was also Jason Miller was part of those conversations. He had made several trips. Bolsonaro is actually in Florida.
Sorry for the trouble. I'm genuinely interested.
Right now, we should note. What has stood out to you about the takeaways and the similarities between what happened then, what happened after the election, and now what we're seeing play out?
Of course, the echoes are unmistakable. I mean, you've got a...
It's not even really echoes, right? It's
I mean, look, you know,
like
Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat, but sometimes it rhymes.
Yeah.
But this is a very close rhyme because the people fanning the flames on
You might call it a near rhyme.
Social media here in the U.S. are some of the sort of the...
Using my poetry abilities here. Yeah, really helpful.
Trumpist wing of that crew who'd been fanning the flames around the Stop the Steal movement very explicitly, not just Steve Bannon, as you say. There has been a move to deny the legitimacy of this election. From some of Trump's former advisors saying, do not concede. And here you have this slightly delayed reaction, but a direct attack on the Capitol by a mob.
Sorry, I can't let you post links for reasons, and I'm not going to go into settings and fix all that while I'm live streaming. Why don't you just describe a moment in history I can Google? And if it's a moment in history, I should be able to find some amount of information about it, and I can sort of bring it up on stream. I'm not going to go watch some random video. I'm sorry.
And it just, I think, speaks to the fact that democracy being under...
News report. Google this. You know, give me anything. I'm sure there's a BBC article or Wikipedia page or, you know, something.
Assault is not over. And some of the people using social media to encourage these sorts of mob attacks are some of the people who, from the sort of self-styled populist nationalist movement that they seek to make international.
There was a great piece republished this morning in the New York Times from months ago that just walked through the months and years of lies about election fraud that Bolsonaro...
like this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. You have to get your audience ready to believe the lie.
Made and continues to make that led to this, right? That lead to this. And the parallels are just so striking with the months and years of lies that continue on now. So I think the question beyond what we saw happen in Brazil is those lies from those leaders continue.
That's
exactly. So then what?
Well, look, I think it highlights the fact that there is a struggle between disinformation and democracy, and that disinformation can create real-world impacts. I mean, the role of bots, for example, in Brazil, spreading disinformation, amplifying false messages, but also being done here from the United States by some of the former President Trump's closest advisors. You know, that I think just speaks to the fact that the disinformation flow around the world because of social media is international.
Yeah. Do you know what this? Do you remember? Right, because we lived this.
Yes.
We all live this. And people would say, why do you guys keep covering January 6th? Why are you trying to divide the country? What are you trying to divide? It's like, no. There was an attack on our democracy. This is important. This should be the lead story every single night on every news broadcast.
I love Hassan's quip that liberals love January 6th so much they want to marry it. It's So good. He's right though. Like, that's a very serious thing to happen in America, and it's so serious it's like spread out to Brazil. Like what?
Till people realize, and then you had all these voices on the conservative side, or lack of voices, not calling this out or criticizing the news media for reporting on this. This is what happens when you allow authoritarian type behavior from leaders. This is what happens when you allow misinformation when you give it a platform.
Look, I think that is exactly right, because this is a real-world impact 2 years delayed in another country. And it just shows that this is not academic. Until there's accountability, until we really get better at combating disinformation in a way that's consistent with our liberal values as a democracy, not only here at home, but abroad, I think these sorts of things will continue occurring. And the fact that it's...
Yo, President Trump pardoned Steve Bannon and Roger Stone, and they're almost certainly behind this nonsense. Like,
some of the same players spreading the same degrees of election lies and misinformation, having
Clean
this
your shit up,
real-world
America.
effect in the southern hemisphere.
It's actually starting to affect Canada too.
I think should be a wake-up call to us all as Brazil today seeks to reestablish the rule of democracy.
We'll see what Republicans say about this. Democrats want them to weigh in and condemn what's happening in Brazil. One thing I will note also, at 3:45 today, the U.S. ambassador to Brazil is getting sworn in. So she has obviously a full plate.
Right.
John Avalon, thank you for laying out what's really important here. And it has global impacts, as you were saying.
Thank you, this has been top of mind for you for years, so for the last 2 years. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. This is what it looks like in Brasilia right now. That's where troops are lining up across from those protesters. Again, look at the pictures on your screen. The deadline to clear them now just 4 hours away after this happened yesterday.
And also, just to sort of come back to you, visual paleta, like if I search invasion capital socialist Brazil, I just get the one that happened. 2023 invasion. Fascist storm Brazilian government building. So I don't know. You're gonna have to give me some keywords to search, because I'm not really sure what you're referring to, and I'm sorry that you can't send links. Get those windows.
Riders are supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro stormed and vandalized Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace on Sunday. Security forces used tear gas to clear protesters and regain control of the buildings. Officials declaring overnight the riots are over. At least 400 people are under arrest this morning. The unrest coming a week after the inauguration.
None of them wore face coverings. Did they not learn from January 6th?
Then Lula.
They learned things, but not necessarily the best lessons. Also, how you doing, Lacey? Good morning.
Da Silva, who is vowing to punish those responsible for the attacks. Straight now to CNN's Rafael Romo tracking the developments for us this morning. Rafael, good morning to you. What is the situation in Brazil's capital this morning?
Good morning, Don. Well, it's finally under control, but it looks like a war zone. And allow me to paint the picture of what transpired in the last 24 hours. Imagine for a moment that the January 6th mob here in the United States had not only breached the Capitol, but also the White House and the Supreme Court building. That's exactly what happened in Brazil Sunday, an insurrection that ended with the arrest of at least 400 people.
Can you imagine invading a courtroom, looking for Supreme Court justices, and think you're on the right side? You're doing good? Oh, bro.
Left the main public buildings in the country inoperable and deepened a political crisis that has been brewing for months.
Brazil boiling over. Supporters of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro stormed key buildings in the country's capital Sunday, breaching security barriers and temporarily occupying the country's Congress, presidential palace, and Supreme Court. Masses of protesters flooded the country's seat of power, many dressed in the colors of Brazil's flag.
At the same time? Was this coordinated? Like, what's up?
Yellow and green, fueled by anger and distrust over Bolsonaro's defeat in a runoff election last October, where he lost by less than 2 percentage points to current President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Protesters threw objects and scaled the roofs of buildings while clashing with police, who responded with tear gas. At least one protester was seen sitting at the desk of Brazil's Congress president.
Nice.
CNN Brazil reports the floor of the Congress building was flooded after the sprinkler system activated when protesters attempted to set fire to the carpet. By evening, police began dispersing the rioters from buildings and arrested hundreds of people who were detained in buses before being taken to the police station. President Lula da Silva, who was inaugurated just a week ago, described the events as barbaric and vowed to punish the people responsible.
Those people that we...
It's tough too, because he's fully in the right to bring down the hammer of the state, and it's just going to further polarize people. Oh, look, a leftist socialist has been voted into power, and the first thing he does is prosecute us as a group. Ah, geez, you know what I mean?
Called fascists. We call them everything that's abominable in politics. They invaded the government headquarters, and they invaded the Congress like vandals, destroying everything in their path.
President Lula...
But did they smear shit on the walls? Is the American insurrection more degenerate than the Brazilian one?
Da Silva also blamed his predecessor for the lack of security in the capital, where Bolsonaro's supporters have been camped out for over a week.
Wow.
Bolsonaro, who is currently in Florida, denounced what he called the depredations and invasions of public buildings in a tweet, adding that peaceful and lawful demonstrations are part of democracy. But critics say Bolsonaro may have stirred up the crowds by repeatedly saying, without evidence, that he questioned the integrity of the country's electronic voting system.
More details have emerged overnight about how violent some of the pro-Bolsonaro protesters became. Done. At least 12 journalists were attacked, robbed, or had their equipment destroyed. Now back to you.
Just an awful situation.
Hey, look, what is it? Fascists hate the media? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Rafael. I appreciate that.
Interesting. That's like a direct parallel to January 6th, when reporters and journalists were being attacked and their equipment was getting destroyed by MAGAs, by MAGA Republicans. Oh, geez, yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that part. Okay. The chief American export is terrorism.
Well, no one can say they weren't warned. Warning signs were there all along. It started months ago when Jair Bolsonaro, the right-wing populist then president of Brazil, claimed with zero evidence that there was an electoral steal underway.
Well, Lacey, that's what I wanted to talk about after. Once we get through this segment, we'll take a closer look at the Freedom Convoy. There's been a couple news stories in, I think, like CBC that are talking about how, like, oh, geez, radicalization is picking up in Canada, and blah, 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 blah. And we can maybe get some lulls in how the Freedom Convoy is falling apart. It's supposed to be going to Winnipeg, but now they're not going to Winnipeg, but maybe some of them are going to Winnipeg. It's great. It's hilarious.
The voting machines could not be trusted. Now, Bolsonaro and Donald Trump are big fans of each other. Even their kids are friendly. Bolsonaro's son Eduardo posted this picture with Donald Trump Jr. at a Las Vegas gun show in 2018. He and his family even visited the White House on the eve of the American insurrection, January 5th, 2021, posting this picture with Ivanka Trump.
Whoa.
The elders Trump and Bolsonaro have a lot in common, from their right-wing politics to the way they both treated the coronavirus while in office to the unfounded claims of vote stealing in their respective elections. So it's unsurprising there were blaring warnings that Bolsonaro was winding up his supporters exactly the same way Trump was. And when Bolsonaro lost, like Trump, he didn't concede. He quietly authorized a transition and then basically fled the country.
Right.
He spent Inauguration Day, when he's supposed to be passing the presidential sash to his successor, in Trump's home state of Florida, where he's been for a while, spending time at a...
Yes! This picture, it's so good. It's so good. Whoever took this picture is a genius. Oh my god. Oh geez, January 9th. Oh, so while like people are taking his lies and going to overturn the election by invading the Capitol and the Supreme Court, this man is struggling to eat a chicken wing.
KFC restaurant in Orlando, and recently being admitted to an area hospital for abdominal pain related to the stabbing he suffered at a campaign event in 2018.
Right, we'll cover that after.
But this past Sunday, 1 week after that inauguration that Bolsonaro was absent from, a right-wing pro-Bolsonaro mob stormed the Brazilian capital in scenes that eerily mirrored the U.S. Capitol 2 years ago. Look at that. Brazilian version of the infamous QAnon.
Lies, MSNBC. Don't trust this picture. They're lying to you. Apparently this image on the left came from 2021. So...
Shane was even featured at a Brazilian Independence Day rally in 2021, shouting support.
Oh, he got it right. Yeah, he got it right.
Mirrored the U.S. Capitol 2 years ago. Look at that. Brazilian version of the infamous QAnon shame was even featured at a Brazilian Independence Day rally in 2021, shouting support for Bolsonaro. But what happened on Sunday as the mob marauded through the government buildings in Brasilia was more than symbolic resonance. The Washington Post reports that after losing the election, Bolsonaro's son sought advice from former Trump advisors Steve Bannon and Jason Miller. There are notable differences, however, in the two riots. The first is that in Brazil, they were a little late. The transfer of power had already happened. In fact, it was a Sunday, and lawmakers and officials were at home. Their offices were closed.
From one GIF that I saw, they were like spreading salt inside the National Congress to like do away with the evil spirit of Bolsonaro, and I guess it didn't work. They didn't use enough salt.
Oh, so they were not terrified for their lives. They were not there for the mob to delay or attempt to stop some kind of process that had happened. The other incredibly striking difference, one I just can't quite get over, is how the day in Brasilia ended compared to how it happened in Washington, D.C. In the U.S., just about everyone who stormed the Capitol were able to just leave.
Go home.
Many went back to their hotel lobbies to revel in what they'd done and post their Instagram videos.
Incredible.
But what you are seeing here is what the end of the day looked like in Brazil, where police got their act together and made hundreds of arrests that day, marching the perpetrators back down the very ramp they used to invade the seat of government.
Get him.
Brazil's new president, Lula, promised to bring those responsible to justice, as roughly 1,000 Bolsonaro supporters have been so far arrested in connection with the violence. Even the local governor of the state that Brasilia is in was suspended by a Brazilian Supreme Court justice on allegations of abetting the riot. He's a big Bolsonaro supporter. And maybe if the U.S. can export this model of attempted authoritarian coup to Brazil, well, then perhaps Brazil can export back a model of real accountability for the perpetrators and the planners.
MSNBC. Okay, next up, let's take a closer look at his gut problem. Apparently he's in the hospital. Brazil's Bolsonaro hospitalized in the U.S. with abdominal pain. Sao Paulo, January 9th, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro was admitted to a hospital in Orlando, Florida with, quote, abdominal pain, newspaper O Globo reported on Monday, a day after some of his hardcore supporters stormed the capital city of Brasilia. Bolsonaro has been hospitalized multiple times in recent years with gut blockages after being stabbed while campaigning for the presidency in 2018. He traveled to the U.S. 2 days before Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva took the office of president and 1 day before the failed coup d'etat. Wow, crazy. What? I wonder, why is he, what's happening? Does it all have to happen at once? Does all the news have to happen at once?
Former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who is currently in the United States, was just admitted to a hospital in Orlando for abdominal pain. Bolsonaro was stabbed in 2018 and frequently suffers pain in that area as a result. And this all comes after that violent mob of protesters loyal to him stormed the government's highest seats of power. Brazilian officials now vowing to protect democracy and punish the thousands of rioters who overran the country.
Okay, wait, go back. Go back. That police guy is just randomly shooting in the air.
Protect democracy and punish the thousands
That guy. What are you shooting at? Is he aiming at that crowd way the hell over there? Like, I think you got to get a bit closer, buddy.
Rioters who overran the country's Supreme Court, Congress, and presidential palace, calling for the newly inaugurated president to step down. The protesters claiming the election was stolen after the former president and an ally of Donald Trump spread the belief among his supporters. Director of the Brazil Initiative at Brown University, James Green.
Large double cheese pizza is only $7 too, so not having to sell an arm for it. Okay, not bad. Got a Domino's. Good. I'm glad that your finals went well. That's nice. And that you took the time to study up. If you have leftover pizza, the best way to eat it is to put it on a skillet. There's enough grease in there that'll fry right up. You put a bit of tin foil or something to cover it so it steams to melt the cheese. Very nice. Very nice.
joining me now from Rio de Janeiro. So, James, hundreds of people apparently have been arrested now, right? With more demonstrators detained today. Can you just bring us up to date on what you know this hour and what's it like in Brazil right now?
So I think the country was absolutely shocked yesterday to watch on TV the invasion of the three branches of the government and the tremendous destruction of property. It was really shocking because classical works of art of Brazil were destroyed by the people who entered the buildings and broke windows and destroyed property. It was very shocking. There is, I think, fear that this kind of radicalization might continue in other parts of the country, that Bolsonaro supporters might mobilize people to do similar actions in other states, including attacking oil refineries to disrupt the economy. And so the government is taking a very strong, harsh position, demanding.
Or maybe, like, I don't know, shooting up power stations like that's been happening in America, like what, North and South Carolina?
That there be investigations of all the people involved in the invasion and also people who financed the buses that took people to Brasilia.
So talk to us.
Sorry, there were buses? People paid for buses to bus the... Oh, there's a paper trail.
More about the new president, Lula da Silva.
Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva was the president of Brazil from 2003 to 2010, 2 terms. He then was charged with crimes involved in corruption. Yeah. He served 580 days in prison. Wow. And then later, when released, it was determined that the prosecuting attorney and the judge overseeing the case were in collusion, and the Supreme Court evacuated all of the charges against.
What? I missed that part.
Him, and so he was then able to run for president, was elected 51% to Bolsonaro.
It's so hard. It's so hard to know what's true.
49%. It's a very close call, 1.8% difference between the two candidates, 2 million votes.
People just don't hold these places as sacred or behave with some level of respect and manner. Yeah, Lacey, it's the big lie that, you know, stolen election or, you know, like stop the steal. Like it's like acid being poured on the pillars of democracy. It's so dangerous. It's so caustic. But I'm just thinking, like, this whole arc with Lula da Silva is very similar to Zelensky. And Zelensky's, if you go back to 2014 to Euromaidan, and you can do the whole Hunter Biden Burisma story, but there was also some fuckery there where, like, the prosecutor was doing charges, but he was actually, like, in bed with the Russians and had to get ousted, to bring in a new prosecutor. Like, it's all like that, like holding these key political positions in order to, like, open a case against your opponent. Like, I'm getting similar vibes with the Lula arc.
But before the elections even took place, following Trump's playbook, Bolsonaro insisted that the elections would be fraudulent, that the voting machines, the electronic voting machines, were not reliable. And then so started the big lie in Brazil, similar to Trump's big lie in the United States, mobilizing, therefore, his supporters to think that he was actually fairly elected president and that the current government of Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is illegitimate.
Another thing to add, Lacey, now that I think about it, is that, like, a lot of people don't see like the institutions of the nation as sacred anymore because those institutions serve the people less and less and less. More and more people are coming to the conclusion that these the nation state is only there to punish and not to help or support. And especially with, like, COVID, everybody's just kind of like, okay, I guess we're on our own now, you know, like we'll make our own community and our own governments and take care of each other. And I think that's really opened up that sort of window, that door into treating the Supreme Court as just some building that we can invade rather than, like, the place where austere, you know, judicial thought is coming from. So, like, I do see, like, the populist angle. Populism is rising on the left and the right because it's harder and harder to make ends meet. The people within the walls and the people storming the walls. Yeah. It's like backsliding, I think you would call it. Democratic backsliding. Yeah.
So, James, do we know if there was any type of communication between our former President Trump and Bolsonaro? We know that they had a tight relationship. Is it possible, do we know, is it even out there, that they had been in communication, that possibly Trump might have been supporting supporters of Bolsonaro?
I don't think so.
We don't know details at this point, but I think it's highly likely that kind of conversation took place.
Really?
Originally, there was a possibility that Bolsonaro would even stay at Mar-a-Lago, but he ended up being offered a place by a Brazilian wrestler who's retired, is in Florida.
Right.
His sons are
I was being told about this. Like, there's some MMA fighter who's hosting.
in close contact with Steve Bannon and the far right in the United States. And so I think it's highly possible that there was some way in which Bolsonaro was involved in directing the insurgency, the attempted coup from the United States, and I think was in Orlando precisely.
I think it's more likely to use working with Bannon and what's his name, Roger Stone,
for a way to credible deniability that he was involved. I just heard that he has been with stomach problems. He's in the hospital, and I don't know what that really is. It's possible that these are repercussions from the stabbing that took place 4 years ago during the electoral campaign. It also could be a very successful excuse to remain out of the eye, to not be seen by the journalists, by the public. We don't know.
Well, clearly it's a story that surprised us. We will continue to follow it, and it definitely echoes so many similarities of what we went through. Same time frame, James, when we experienced our insurrection on January 6th. The irony is chilling. James Green, appreciate your time. We'll stay in close touch.
Okay, so I got a bit of a palate cleanser. This was a really fun video that went viral. Absolutely delightful. So this should be enjoyable. This guy understood the assignment.
You've just given us a ticket. You literally just given us a ticket. Why?
Because you're parked on the double yellow line.
But we're,
and it says don't park at any time.
We're not parked.
So if you're
we're
not
waiting.
You're waiting.
Yes, waiting.
Okay. So are you waiting once you're parked or once you're driving? What is it?
We're waiting.
What is it?
We're waiting while we're stationary.
You can either be driving or parked. Right?
No, we're stationary. We're not
stationary.
Either. Yeah.
Stationary as in parked. The car is parked in stationary mode.
Yes.
So you are parked. You've just admitted it. So this is
no. My foot's on the brake.
Listen, Mr. Man in the back. Look at you, giving me all the attitude. You are not in the conversation. It's me and this man.
No, but it's my car.
It doesn't matter whose car it is. But it's my ticket that I've given you.
Well, yes.
So you pay for it.
Yeah, so don't argue with me then.
Listen. Not at any time. Can you, Mr. Recordy?
Yeah.
Zoom in. What does it say?
Monday to Friday.
X anytime.
Yeah, but we're not parked there.
X anytime. Listen.
Yeah, but like,
can't you see this sign? It said double yellow line. Can't you see this sign? Can you see the sign? Listen.
Yeah, but like, we're not on the double yellow line though. We're on the curb.
Even worse. You're on the, imagine now as a pedestrian.
But there is no one.
Listen.
Can you be a pedestrian so I can hit you?
Whoa.
Imagine now as a pedestrian.
But there is no one.
Listen.
Can you be a pedestrian so I can hit you?
Oh, so now you want to assault me?
No.
Police officer. Hey. This man has just threatened me. He just said he wants to hit me with the car. Listen, my friend. I don't like to do anything.
I get you're doing your job in that, yeah. I get you're doing your job, but you're taking your job too seriously, mate.
Too seriously?
You could have asked us to move.
If I don't take it seriously, no one will enforce the law. I am a law enforcer.
But you could have asked us to move.
No, but it's
I've
not.
got kids.
Look, just take the ticket off.
I've got
take
kids.
the ticket off, yeah?
You know what?
We'll take the ticket off and forget it's ever happened, yeah?
We'll forget. I'll just put it in there for you, so you know what's happened. So you can now pay the fine.
But I'm saying I've got kids.
Please keep it. If you don't pay the fine, it will become double. Remember, I want you, when you're driving home with that ticket in the car, I want you to remember, can't you see this sign? It said double yellow line. Don't do it again. This is a what?
Awesome.
An inch over. Yeah. This is my kind of
No, but
car.
I'm saying you could have told us to move.
It's not clean. My friend, can you tell them? I'm trying to give them tickets. They've parked on the yellow line. They don't want to pay. Imagine, even they are saying that you should pay.
But I'm saying you could have told us to move. You could have told us to move.
It's not about telling you to move.
No, you're actually supposed to give us 10 minutes. You know that.
Come on, man.
No,
You're supposed to sit
where?
for 10
Where
minutes.
does this say 10
No,
minutes?
but you're supposed to stand here for 10 minutes to see if someone comes back to the car.
But I'm saying, listen here, we're in a living crisis right now.
Living crisis?
Yeah.
I'm in a living crisis. I live in a one-room house. I have kitchen here, bed here, and iPad here.
Exactly,
that sounds like a
is
you
my
problem.
living crisis.
That sounds like a you problem.
That sounds like
Mate,
a me problem.
yeah.
And you having a ticket sounds like a you problem. So you pay for it. Okay?
Got him.
So you deal with it. Stop talking to me. You broke the law. So
didn't
now
break the law.
you broke the law. So now you face it.
What, and you didn't by parking right behind us?
I'm taking it first. It doesn't matter where I park.
Oh, so one rule for you and one rule for another?
Of course.
Oh.
Of course. It doesn't matter where I park. If I park in the sky, it doesn't matter. I park
Okay.
where I like. You can't. You can't park on the yellow line. And
Oh,
can't
so you
park on
think
the
you're
line.
above the law?
I am above the... I am the law.
You're not the law.
I am the law.
You're not the law.
I am the law. Hence why I'm giving you tickets. So you will pay for it and you will suffer. Good day. Good day, gentlemen. Hey, I like this car, though.
I can't. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's so good. It's so good. There's so many good lines. Ah, shit. I am the law. Okay, all right. Moving on, chat. I hope you enjoyed the lols. Okay, so apparently there's a massive strike happening in New York City with 7,000 nurses on strike. If nurses are outside, something is wrong inside. This is from the top comment. I was on the strike line with the nurses from before sunrise today at one of the smaller campuses of Montefiore Health System. And let me tell you, nurses are pissed. And they're not taking crap from management. There was not a moment quiet on the strike line, even with such a small number of nurses. From what I heard, the hospitals were absolutely hemorrhaging money today, and before I headed out for some rest, they'd requested the union come back to the bargaining table. We are planning on striking through the weekend. I doubt management can last that long. This is what happens when working people unite. Solidarity forever. Oh yeah, that looks like a scene. Holy. We were talking earlier about the Freedom Convoy. This went sort of viral. I mean, 5,000 views. We at Clan Mothers CA, the Clan Mothers Healing Village, fully endorse and support the following statement that was released today and join in our community's demand that the so-called Freedom Convoy cease appropriating the lives of Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit kin to further their own agenda. So this was something that we saw happen in Ottawa when King, what was his name? Or no, Patrick, what was that guy? He was such an asshole. One of the main organizers, he ended up receiving a letter from like the local Indigenous, community being like, yo, what are you doing? Can you please stop? All right, so here's the statement, January 3rd. So it was published, I guess, a week ago today, and hasn't gotten much eyeballs. Families and survivors of missing and murdered... Sorry, this is Statement on Freedom Convoy and Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Two-Spirited, Treaty 1 Territory, January 3rd. Families and survivors of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit kin, alongside the MMI-WG2S Plus Implementation Committee, denounce the so-called Freedom Convoy for their blatant use of Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit kin to further their own misguided and propagandic agenda. Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit kin are currently dealing with the reality and aftermath of a serial killer, said whom is a documented and proud white supremacist. The Freedom Convoy is known to represent extreme white supremacist views which devalue the lives and experiences of Indigenous peoples alongside Black, LGBTQ2S+, and persons of color. We already said that, but all right, let's move on. The Freedom Convoy has a continued presence in Winnipeg. Oh, I'm thinking of BIPOC, that's why. The Freedom Convoy has a continued presence in Winnipeg as evidenced by the ongoing demonstrations of support. This has, once again, ensured that we will be on high alert to ensure the safety and well-being of our communities. We are advising community supporters and families of MMI WG2S Plus people. We do not have any affiliation or working relationships with any Freedom Convoy peoples or groups. Finally, in all bold, we demand the so-called Freedom Convoy to immediately cease from appropriating and using the lives of Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit kin to further their own white supremacist leanings. Please note that individuals, including family members and survivors, have endorsed this statement. However, in the interest of personal safety and protection from harassment, are not being listed. Sincerely, Sisters in Spirit from the Winnipeg chapter. Interesting. Winnipeg Chapter Social Planning Council of Manitoba, Mawichi Itata Center, and the Implementation Committee Manitoba, Women's Memorial March of Manitoba, Nani Kani Chik Incorporated. So interesting. Is there a higher resolution of this anywhere? That's funny. So yeah, Freedom Convoy, not the best. Okay, and this went viral. I'll give it a quick listen. Apparently, this Texas high school student, Paxton Smith, secretly swapped out her approved valedictorian speech for a new one in protest of the state's abortion law.
I have dreams and hopes and ambitions. Every girl graduating today does. And we have spent our entire lives working towards our future. And without our input and without our consent, our control over that future has been stripped away from us. I am terrified that if my contraceptives fail, I am terrified that if I am raped, then my hopes and aspirations and dreams and efforts for my future will no longer matter. I hope that you can feel how gut-wrenching that is. I hope you can feel how dehumanizing it is to have the autonomy over your own body taken away from you. And I cannot give up this platform to promote complacency and peace when there is a war on my body and a war on my rights. A war on the rights of your mothers, a war on the rights of your sisters, a war on the rights of your daughters. We cannot stay silent.
So I thought that was pretty based. Okay, last news story of the day before I wrap up shop. Holy shit, the Andrew Callahan accusations are actually really bad. So this is Valsh talking about it. And I heard one video. We'll see if we can pull it up right now, but we'll be taking a closer look at this tomorrow. Andrew Callahan is the guy behind All Gas No Brakes, Channel 5. He just had a recent HBO series. And apparently there's some accusations that, here it is. This is the accusation here.
Making this video, and I never in a million years thought that I would be making this video, and I'm shaking because I've tried a couple different times and haven't been able to get my point across, but I don't like seeing abusers get platforms. And my abuser, Andrew Callahan, also known as All Gas No Brakes, Channel 5, and whatever his new HBO show's called, I forget, has been plastered all over my news feed, and I've tried to come to him person to person and try to get him to take accountability for what he did, but his version of what happened the night that he assaulted me is so skewed. So I will tell you that he did eventually get consent. And that's the main point, is that he eventually got consent because he wore me down. He told me he needed a place to stay for the night. He had some sort of falling out with one of his crew members or whatever, and I was very clear about the fact that we are not hooking up. He gets in my bed and wears me down to the point where I eventually do agree to do things that I wasn't proud of. And I wasn't proud of them and thought it was my fault for so long that I continued to be nice to him after the situation. He wouldn't leave my house the next morning. And then as time went on and I processed things, I thought, you know what, just because eventually I said, okay, whatever, because I was trying to just get the whole night over with so that it could be morning so that he could leave, it doesn't discount the fact that I told him no. I told him no so many times prior to this. I said, I'm tired, I'm not really feeling it. I came up with any excuse that I possibly could to just get him off of me. And he still found a way to coerce me into things that I didn't want to do. And this is really hard for me to say. I never thought I would come forward, but it's even more hard to have to relive the trauma that I endured every single day by seeing this man as a social justice warrior, as someone who cares about human rights, get a platform. You shouldn't be supporting him. And at the end of the day, like, I've told close friends of mine, I've tried coming out about this before, and he texted me saying that it basically ruined his life and that his life was over now because of things that I said, and other women have come forward to me, but this is my first time publicly talking about it on a platform like TikTok because I hope it gets traction. I hope people listen to me. I hope that if something similar has happened to you, that you know that that's not your fault. It wasn't my fault what happened to me, just because I eventually...
Yeah, not good. Not good. So we'll be taking a closer look at this tomorrow.
Thought that I would be making this video,
Here's
and
the whole video. Yeah, we'll take another look at this tomorrow. Will be the main segment probably. Yeah, it's pretty wild. He's been a good content creator for a long time, but it's not looking good. Let's say coercion is not okay. Okay, everybody, that's the stream. That's it. I'm gonna tip on. I'm gonna tip on out. Gonna try to get used to this morning slot, 7 to 9 a.m. Gonna update all the things. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed your stay. And yeah, I don't know. That's probably it, everybody. It's probably it. I'll see you later. You have a good one. Bye. Au revoir. See ya. À la prochaine. See you tomorrow morning.